Using heartbeats as song bass, right theme song for the ICU.
Intentionally competent.
Providing intensive care for global mind. Tackling war propaganda, power to put global conflicts under the microscope. Exposing the system's lies and hidden hands that keep the war machine alive. From Gaza to Tehran, Washington to Tel Aviv, we dig into the facts, the headlines skip, the history they distort, and the human costs they bury. No political PR, no sanitized sound bites, just raw, verifiable truth, served with moral clarity and zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Hearing never ends, we refrain always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead is your guiding staff. With ICU, may you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. I see you. You not believe, want you know that I do, I want you know that we feel, don't just chew the feel, that there's something we do. And no political bearing, no sanitized sound bites, just raw verifiable truth served with moral clarity, zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we die.
Welcome back to ICU, the space where inner consciousness is unraveled and the intentionally competent you is not just welcomed back into your body. You are invited to believe it again. Here, like you always hear me say, we don't rant, we refrain. And let me start where I always must. I'm not here because I wanted this job. I'm just still here, reluctantly, across from Uncle Donald, and now across from an empire that survives by making your body doubt itself. Its leaders steadily program us to ignore our own inner knowing. This, like you hear me say, has never been and will never be armchair therapy. This is soul surgery. And today, we speak to your somatic truth. Today's episode is titled, Silencing the Somatic Prophet. Why your body's truth threatens empire. This episode reveals why embodied awareness, especially in the face of propaganda, nationalism, and spiritual bypassing, is not just healing, but dangerous to systems built on denial. Let's begin. What is the somatic prophet? Let me define that clearly for us. Your somatic prophet is the part of you that knows something is wrong before you can even explain it. The clench in your stomach when you're being manipulated. The ache that you feel in your throat when your truth is being silenced. The tension in your shoulders when dominance enters the room. It's not just hysteria. It's not paranoia. It is embodied discernment. And for marginalized communities, for trauma survivors, for those gaslit by religion, by culture, by politics, the somatic prophet has been criminalized as rebellion, weakness, or sin. But we don't accept that. We don't accept that. But for us to be able to stand back and reclaim ourselves, we must first define certain things. Why empire hates the body? There are a couple of things, but let me name a few of them. Empire thrives on what? Compliance, containment, control. When you hear them utter words like law and order, that's all it is. It's empire trying to thrive on these key tenets. And what does the body threaten? The body threatens all three: compliance, containment, and control. The body breaks timelines with panic. The body disrupts rituals with tremors. The body tells the truth when the system says lie. That's why colonized people were taught to distrust their pain. Women were called emotional for feeling danger. Queer bodies were surveilled for moving differently. And black rage was labeled criminal, not sacred. Empire fears the body because the body remembers. It remembers before the propaganda. It remembers during the sermon. It remembers what your mouth wasn't allowed to say. So let's bring it back. Let's bring this back to the man across from me again. Uncle Donald and the performance that bypasses or attempts to bypass the body. Donald Trump did not govern, or he doesn't govern by logic or through logic. He governs by emotional flooding. And what are those keys? Rage, certainty, showmanship. He bypassed the prefrontal cortex. He hijacks the limbic system. His power didn't come from politics or policy. It came from nervous system manipulation. And if your somatic prophet wasn't online, you might have felt. There's just so many traits that I can describe. You might have felt numb. You might have felt confused. You might have felt seduced. You might have felt terrified, but unable to say why. That is the key. He doesn't just lead badly. He dysregulated entire nations and called it leadership. But this doesn't start with him, and it's not going to end with him. And let me tell you this. We must figure out that the pre-programming that set us up for Donald Trump, we can reprogram ourselves. How we were taught to exile our somatic prophet. Most of us weren't taught to trust our bodies. We were taught to do what? Sit still, calm down, ignore the red flag, swallow the truth to stay in the room. And then we wonder why. We wonder why we don't know who to trust. We wonder why we fail to actually protect ourselves and fall for abusive systems. We wonder why we stay silent around harm. All these are because the prophet inside of us was trained to be polite, trained to be quiet, programmed to be scared of being labeled too much. And let me say this now. Your body was never and will never be the enemy. Your body is always the messenger. Are we able to listen? Are we capable of paying attention to our bodies? So we come back to ICU practices. And the practice for this week is to reclaim that somatic prophet. So this week, I invite you to restore the voice your body was forced to suppress. And how do we do that? We start by naming the silencer. And we do that by asking, who or what taught me not to trust my instincts? We must name the system, the teacher, the doctrine. We write it down, witness it, and release it. We must reintroduce yourself to your body. Each morning, ask this: what truth is my body holding that my mind won't say out loud? Breathe into the answer. Don't fix it. Feel it. Live it. Claim it. Do a prophetic scan. When in a meeting, in a conversation, or scrolling, pause and scan. What peace there may be in the silence. Scan. Where do I feel contraction? Scanning your whole body. Where do I feel expansion? What is my body asking me to notice? And if we stay attuned to our bodies, we'll protect ourselves from a lot of harm. Let's learn how to speak from the body, not just from the brain. So next time you need to respond to power, begin with, something in my body is telling me this isn't right. That, I tell you, truth seekers, is sacred authority. That is the prophet coming home. So in closing, let me say this with tenderness, but with fire. Your body is not and will never be a liability. Your body is not a problem to fix. Your body is the prophet to listen to. And when we start trusting that knowing again, empire begins to tremble. Because a regulated, embodied, spiritually alert population is ungovernable by fear. Let me take that back. A regulated, embodied, spiritually alert population is ungovernable by fear. Let that sit on your nervous system and repeat it over and over again. Thank you for joining me this week in the ICU. Next week in the ICU, we'll tap on a special episode, The Whisper Before the War, decoding pre-fascist energy in public discourse. Until then, remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking forward with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff. May you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly. Always please subscribe, share, like, engage with us. That's what gives us that fuel to keep on producing content of relevance to you. And always, you heard it in this episode, I talked about it a lot. Remember to breathe. Breathe. But never ever forget to always send love to your nervous system. I see you.
ICU, intentionally competent you put us, providing an intensive care for global mind, tackling war, propaganda, power to put global conflicts under the microscope, exposing the system's lies and hidden hands that keep the war machine alive. From Gaza to Tehran, London, Moscow, Paris, Washington to Tel Aviv, Brazzaville to Kyiv, we dig into the facts the headlines skip, the history they distort, and the human cost they bury. The establishment of puppet heads of state in Africa to facilitate the pillaging of resources and codify corruption, forcing significant brain drain. Then targeting victims of these systems and blocking them from gaining access to the developed nations that their land resources provide. No political PR, no sanitized sound bites, just raw, verifiable truth served with moral clarity and zero fear. In the ICU, we don't just treat the symptoms, we diagnose the disease. Here we never rant, we reframe always while sending love to our nervous systems. Remember to always carry what serves you, release what doesn't, and keep walking with your ancestors at your back and your inner compass ahead as your guiding staff. With ICU, may you diagnose wisely, resist kindly, and reimagine boldly.